Orthodox part of the essentials, as you say, when our brothers and sisters may have a different set of essentials that are much more arbitrary?
Okay, so I'm going to answer this question as a Protestant and as an evangelical, because obviously a Catholic or an Orthodox person is going to answer this question somewhat differently. And it's one of the challenges with, like, for example, this is an aside, but like Roman Catholicism post-Vatican II has been very open to the idea of separated brethren, ecclesial communities and whatnot, even though they want to maintain that the Roman Catholic Church is the only true church. But the challenge with Roman Catholicism is the amount of additional material they keep putting on to the deposit of faith. Like you gotta believe the bodily assumption of Mary and the Immaculate Conception and the papal infallibility, and like it's just more and more over the centuries that like Orthodox people over here and Protestants are still like, we're like, like some of the stuff's not even in the Bible. Like it's not necessarily like, okay, believe what you want, but like don't like to say that this is like necessary to believe for salvation, which the Catholic Church sort of says, and on the one hand, and then doesn't on the other hand, because of the separated brethren and some of the outreach that they've done. So anyway, that's an aside. I'm answering this question as a Protestant, as an evangelical. Those secondary issues are very, very important for the structural integrity of the house you're living in. So instead of seeing Orthodoxy as that we're all living in one house, I think it would be better if we looked at Orthodoxy that we're all living in a neighborhood. And different denominations and traditions, faith traditions, are in different homes within that neighborhood. And there are times when, for evangelistic reasons, for political reasons, for whatever, we are all going to have a huge block party. We're going to all barbecue together. We're all going to be outside and we're going to enjoy, as C.S. Lewis talked about, like coming out of the rooms into the hallway. Occasionally that's wonderful. It's fantastic. But at the end of the day, there are particular aspects that will matter as orthodoxy, small o orthodoxy, for your particular house. So, for example, if you're a Baptist, is it a secondary issue that you can agree with other believers in Christ as to whether or not the baptism of infants is the biblical command, or whether it's baptism of believers upon a profession of faith? That is an agree to disagree aspect within Christendom writ large. So Pentecostals and Assemblies of God and Church of God and even some Methodists, but Baptists and others will all be on one side of that, and then you have your Paedo-Baptists on the other side of that. There are debates going way back over this. So you can go back and find, debates all the way back to Tertullian about baptism. So if you're in a Baptist house, is it a secondary issue? Well, in terms of the neighborhood, yes, because it doesn't keep you from visiting the Anglican house or visiting the Presbyterians down the street, or being able to receive gifts from the other faith traditions. But if someone were to come into your house and say, oh, you know what, it's not an essential doctrine of the faith, therefore you can take out this plank and we're just going to say, just be baptized however you want. It doesn't really matter in this house anymore. Well, for the Baptist house, that's a load-bearing wall. You remove the house, you're not a Baptist anymore. You remove the wall, you're not a Baptist anymore. Like at some level, you've become something else, but the structural integrity of the house is compromised at that level. So there's a sense in which different faith groups, based on how they read the Bible within the overarching neighborhood of orthodoxy, the overarching understanding, will come to see certain things as not essential for salvation, but essential for the integrity of the faith tradition that they're a part of. And at times they'll recognize that some things are not. So the Evangelical Free Church, for example, recently revised their doctrinal standard to not make premillennial views the only acceptable view within the E-Free Church. That had been a distinctive that they basically moved away from, to say the structural integrity of our house is fine if there's an agree to disagree within that home. But there are other denominations where if you were to make a move on a particular distinctive, you would compromise something of what makes the denomination distinctive, and could at the same time actually rob other Christians of the particular gifts that come from the structural integrity of that home. So again, I'm using the analogy of the neighborhood and the house, just so that you understand that at a second tier level, there are things that are not orthodoxy in the capital O, like big time orthodoxy sense, but are still matter for like for Reformed orthodoxy or Baptist orthodoxy, or the different groups that we have. And I think it's important for us to be able to see those differences and recognize them in order to have a proper understanding of how this all fits.